Hello everybody and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast after Nottingham Forest lose to Manchester City 3-0 at the Etihad. A bit of a poor performance, but was that City being world class or was it Forest being poor? We shall discuss all of that. Maybe another reality check too. Forest beaten quite comfortably by City. Bernardo Silva opens the scoring, then it was Kevin De Bruyne getting back on the score sheet and Jeremy Doku in the second half tops it all off to beat Forest 3-0, joined by Aussie Dave. It's early in the morning for you, mate, for once. It's slightly late here, so if you're joining us live on Facebook and YouTube, we appreciate it. It's 10:10 in the UK, around 9am, of course, in Australia. David, how are you, mate? Watching the game and everything like that. Nice to have you back on.
Mate, good to see you, Max. 6:30am wake up for the Australian fans on the east coast of Australia watching this morning. And look, guess we just witnessed Nottingham Forest attending the Man City training session.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've literally. I know that chance. We'll get onto it in a minute. I've literally just got back about 5 minutes ago. It's about a 30-minute walk. It is a home match. It's a 30-minute walk for me. That's all. Do you know what? I actually normally run round the Etihad. I said to my dad when I was going out, I said it's quite flat round here. It's quite good. It's why I run round. There's something weird being running around a football ground when it's empty compared to walking round it when it was absolutely mental.
Running from the stadium in just sheer disgust.
Just running away from that?
Running away from Man City. But oh well, what can you say?
Yes, what can you say? What did you make of the game, David, overall? Stood in the away end. I thought from minute one, I often think in football the first 10 minutes of a game can determine the rest of it. And I think that's what happened. I thought Forest were pretty poor coming out straight away. I thought we switched off and I thought that their first goal wasn't amazing. It wasn't a world-class goal. It was a lack of closing down, similar to the De Bruyne goal and the space that we gave him on the flank as well before the ball came into the box. And I just thought Forest started very poorly, finished very poorly, but the start wasn't great at all. It got better throughout, but we just never really felt like we were at the races, did we?
We never really got out of third gear. So you're right, the first goal, I've got it in my notes. I thought Gibbs-White was caught a little pedestrian maybe once or maybe even twice with how they sliced through us. And then we just felt a bit deep. I think we're now starting to feel the pain of Dominguez and Yates having to have played so many matches consecutively. I think a freshen up for one of those for a Danilo or even a Sangare might have helped at this point of the season. It's not like James Ward-Prowse has been lighting it up ever since you and I were arguing, Max, about whether he should tackle someone. He basically hasn't been seen. And they're just a quality and above. And my big takeaway was the top teams now, the Cartel Six, as some of our other YouTube friends might call them, they're a class above the rest of the league, and we're the best of that next bunch, or in the top 2 or 3 of that next bunch. And those teams, when they turn up to play Nottingham Forest, they are not missing. They've researched, they're well prepared. It's not like they're turning up against Nottingham Forest anymore and not being sure what to expect, because we're one of the better ones and at risk. So I think we probably were dealt that. And Man City, look, it was a favourable draw for them. They would have been pleased to have gotten us. But yeah, we just never looked in it. To be honest, from the first couple of minutes, you knew we were in trouble.
Yeah. And you're right, actually. It's quite a good point about you kind of rock up and you don't expect much. It was the same with Arsenal. It was even the same when we went to Chelsea and Liverpool, and obviously Forest get results there this season, which added to the surprise factor and just how brilliant the start's been. But it has been back to reality, I think, the past couple of weeks for Forest. And you are right, because you rock up to a team like Man City and the fact that they can, they've got Haaland, they've got De Bruyne, they've got Silva, they've got Jeremy Doku, and these are players that haven't been on form, if you like, recently, yet they showed up tonight. And it was, I think anyone underestimating City and thinking Forest were going to ever really have a chance of getting anything would probably be a little bit silly given their recent success. And we forget that this team is pretty much, the champions of the world recently.
Well, they would have been, when you play poorly for a couple of matches, the next match can't come soon enough. And the next match for them was 3 days later against Nottingham Forest, who they would have fancied themselves on and, comfortably beat us, really. Haaland wasn't in good form, but goodness me, they got some players, that mob. And I've said it before, I don't like watching Manchester City because I don't want to give them a click and I don't want to give them a view. And so it just hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's discuss really. I mean, it was a bit of not an odd team selection because I thought we all kind of knew maybe what Nuno was trying to do. Very similar to Liverpool, obviously. He played wingers still for tonight, Jota Silva and Anthony Elanga, which might have been a surprise, and obviously sees Callum Hudson-Odoi dropped on the bench. But I think the idea really from minute one was to try and compact that midfield and have quite a bit of a defensive, a bit of a solid midfield, because I think often against the top six, that is where games are won. And I think we saw with City's game against Liverpool, I actually thought Liverpool won that game in midfield a lot of the time with the turnover of play, and I think that's what happened tonight. Didn't help for Forest, but you can understand maybe Nuno's team selection, and can you see why he's dropped Callum Hudson-Odoi, given probably arguably one of his worst performances in a Forest shirt against Ipswich?
Well, we had a bad, Gary Birtles in the commentary hammered Callum Hudson-Odoi.
I feel for him.
Oh, goodness me, I'm not sure anyone plays Forest being a player, but maybe that's the standards we expect. Look, it's also a lot of running and a lot of, meters in the legs, and a lot of the fans have been calling for Jota Silva to make the team, including you, Max. So I'm not surprised that he got a run in the team. And so given we've got a game in a couple of days' time against Manchester United, you'd expect Callum Hudson-Odoi to start that match. So I think he was just rotating the wingers and wanted speed. And also Elanga does tend to defend a little bit more than Callum Hudson-Odoi does. Maybe not as effectively tonight, certainly on that left-hand side. We were getting carved up early on. But I could certainly understand the choice. But it's when you look at Dominguez and Yates, they're looking a little tired now, and we don't really have that option that we might have. Like if in seasons past, we might have just flipped the midfield and gone with Danilo and Sangare or something else just to change it up. Like how many times have we seen Dominguez come into the team when we've needed to freshen up in midfield and him give us something? He's just not looking as good as he did 6 matches ago, but quality of opposition, Max. Yeah,
no, absolutely. No, I agree. Forest, if you didn't know, started the lineup. I'll read it out just in case. It was Sales and then the back four of Moreno, Murillo, Milenkovic and Ola Aina. That's a back four we're all quite familiar with. It was Dominguez and Yates, almost as you two kind of central holding midfielders, and then it was Jota Silva, Morgan Gibbs White, Anthony Elanga, with Chris Wood leading the line. What did you make to Elanga, actually? And we'll start kind of singling out players and talking about their performances. I thought, obviously before we got onto Jota Silva, but Elanga's had a lot to prove, hasn't he? And there has been criticism that's come his way, rightly so. He hasn't had the greatest start to a Forest season, really. And I thought he looked bright at times, but there was just, again, moments where he's got to pass the ball at the right time. He's got to finish maybe a few of those chances, and it just didn't seem to be his night again. I'm not calling for Elanga to be dropped and sold in January, but it just doesn't seem to be going well for him at the minute, does it, Dave?
No, it doesn't. And he had one of those Callum Hudson-Odoi moments on the left-hand side where you're sitting there going, geez, it would have been handy if that was Callum on that one. I think his accuracy on the set pieces shouldn't be underestimated and is still valuable, and I think we have missed that in matches. He's definitely the most accurate passer that we have, and it's still that decision-making that you see. I'm still more excited about Elanga running at players than Jota Silva.
I agree.
So when he's running at them, you feel that we're certainly a chance. I just think it's like, I'm going to call out Alex Morrow's comments that we see there. I really feel like most fans are overreacting to this. I think you're right, Alex. They're a good team, and against the Guardiola and that left back, these are quality players. It's not like you're going to be taunting them and running at them and carving them up. I think it's a reality check, and okay, this is where we're up to. What do we need to do to improve to go against them again? Just
coming in there, Dave, when you, and I agree, I think, I'm not saying that it's a disaster Forest losing away at City, but maybe in the manner you can, I think it was just disappointing, and maybe that's my perspective, sat in the stadium paying money to watch the game, and I have a different perspective to people that watch it on TV and think, right, it's City, they are world class, they've had a poor run of games, but look, let's not underestimate them here. And not that Forest fans went into the stadium thinking, we're going to get something, but I think it was more the manner of how we lost it. I just thought we weren't great from minute one. I don't think it was like Arsenal where we didn't show up and we weren't completely we were completely out of the game. So I actually thought we were in the game for a large proportion of it. You look at the Chris Wood chance, you look at the Elanga chance, you look at the Gibbs White chance. You score one of those, it changes the whole complexity of a football game, right? And I thought Forest were in the game didn't do enough, and there was a lack of, not fight and desire, I don't want to use that word, but there was just I think we made City actually look better than they were, and I thought Forest probably made just many silly errors. And when you make silly mistakes and errors against a team like City, you're going to get punished more than making silly errors, no disrespect to them, against a team like Leicester or West Ham. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's two parts of that which I'll respond to. In terms of the silly errors, against Manchester City, when you recover the ball and you tend to play it out to, one of your fellow players, against Man City, they're just positionally stronger, fitter, better, smarter. And so you get closed down faster. So that's one point of that. So that just makes it more difficult because they're one of the top teams. But I don't think you're wrong, Max. Like, who tonight came out and you said, you know what? He tried hard.
Absolutely. And I can't give you one player.
He killed himself out there on the field. You know what? Like, when you're doing the player ratings and you're on the leasing team and you've got that one player like, from bygone, and Jed Spence, boy, wasn't he trying tonight? Like, wasn't he up and down? He was trying everything. He was doing everything. He was creative. He was over here. Like, there was no player tonight that was that for Nottingham Forest, which was surprising given that it was Manchester City. And I thought they would have had this one penciled in for a while. The two Manchester games, like, it's a big run of fixtures for us, these 6 matches, like, other than the Ipswich one, which was also a little pedestrian. It's goodness me, Max, if you or I were playing against Manchester City, I would expect to not be able to walk off the field afterwards. So, you're playing the best team in the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
To it, so.
Yeah, and I just thought it was disappointing. Thought it was a disappointing evening. Doesn't help when, Manchester's just full of rain and misery and darkness, and then the 3 goals add to it for the walk home. Yeah, cold and miserable.
Place to live, isn't it, Max?
It's all right. It's not bad. At times, it's all right when the sun's shining.
Alex Morrow's on point with these comments. It's trawl tracking in our own team. That's definitely right. Sorry, I'm preempting your comment.
You are.
Alex is definitely on point.
Alex says, think it was poor tracking in our own third that let us down and lack of quality finishing. But equally, I felt players looked better than they have in recent games. Jota, Alanga, Morgan, Gibbs-White. Mark says, what did I say in the last episode? Forest could win today. I'd take a draw, but City hammering us 3-0 is not out of the question. Mark, you look quite different, mate. Nice profile picture. You look a bit changed.
Let's break down Mark's comment here. So basically he's saying that Forest can win. I'd love a draw, but I wouldn't surprise it if we lost. You basically just picked every single option there, Mark, and then you're saying that you were right.
Right. Let's reflect on Alex's comment and actually talk about Jota, because I wanted to kind of come on to him. I think the last few games, I really rate Jota Silva's work rate, and I really rate his enthusiasm and energy on the ball and even off the ball when he's trying to defend, and he'll try and go for everything airily, and he is a bit of a, the word, it starts in S and it ends in Y. I won't say it, but you kind of know what type of player he is, and I think that's what Forest have needed. However, there comes a risk with that, and there comes a risk more than probably most games when you travel into the world champions and you're playing him, because there is maybe a sense of naivety and there is maybe a sense of, rabbit in a headlights type kind of thing. And I just thought that Jota was that tonight. I thought his energy was there, and again, he was chasing everything until he came off, but he never really looked like he was going to kind of almost keep the ball. Yeah, absolutely. You didn't feel like he was going to do a Callum Hudson-Odoi away at Liverpool, did you?
Well, it's just an interesting choice of not playing Callum Hudson-Odoi, reflecting on it as we talk now. He would have really wanted to play this match. So, Jota Silva, he's been knocking at the door without banging the door down. We gave him a nice chance tonight. He didn't look completely out of place, but look, I just would have think if it's a must-win game and Forest have to win to stay in the Premier League, you're playing Anthony Alanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi for mine still. So, but we've got to rotate these guys and we've got to get them in. I thought that at the time when he brought the players, on, giving Moreira some time, he gave Sousa more time than usual. He took off Gibbs-White and Chris Wood, and that's what he had to do because the game was lost 3-0. Why bother keep pressing?
Yeah, no, I was about to say that. Do you think that I thought when he made those substitutions, I kind of looked and I said, yeah, game over. Let's rest those players and try again. Try again on Saturday.
Yeah, give Taiwo some more minutes.
What do you make to Taiwo, Dave?
It's what we've been getting a little bit more of him. Look, there was a couple of good passing movements, and look, we'll never know if Taiwo would have scored instead of Chris Wood in that situation. We just need to find a way to get Taiwo some minutes, I think. And what really is interesting for me to think about at the moment is if you were to pick, obviously, our strongest 10 players, not necessarily in positions, I would just think that Elliot Anderson is in that 10. And Morato arguably is also in that 10. So if you were to accommodate those players, I thought we looked better in the second half when he switched to the 3 at the back with the wing backs. I thought that was a stronger lineup. What was your take on the second half start, Max?
Yeah, I thought second half we came out. I mean, I thought we could have scored, and there was chances, and there was that kind of flurry of pressure up until it changed again. And I thought again we lost the ball in midfield quite a lot on the turnover of play. But that first 10 minutes, I'm thinking, why can't Forest start the game like that? And obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and Nuno will look at that and probably say the same. But where was that energy and tenacity? And think where was the Forest that we've seen for the past few months, really?
Well, the first 10 minutes they were out, Max. They were even out very much earlier than Man City at half time. Did you notice that at the match? Geez, Forest came.
Yeah, I thought they came out quite early. Yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah, Man City were keeping them waiting. And that also means that the Morato undefeated no-goal streak has come to an end, which is also a bit of a shame, really.
What do you make to Morato? There's been a lot of fans, I've seen a lot on social media, they've not cried out, but maybe called for him to be given a start. But when you have got that kind of central partnership with Murillo and Milenkovic, do you want to change that? Is that an area where Forest are lacking at the minute? Probably not.
Probably not.
But when he came on, I thought he was solid. I thought he probably had. In fact, if I had to give you one player that I was probably most impressed with, probably be him, and he was a substitute.
I would agree with that. I thought tonight was the first night we've seen Murillo and Milenkovic look challenged by a forward lineup, and as much as they managed to contain Haaland, typically I feel they've been dominating and been very difficult to break down. Whereas tonight they were not as dominant as you've seen, but still quite good. What was it? The Doku goal was around Milenkovic. That's not his. He's not a wide fullback that can close down wingers and close down those opportunities. So he got caught out a little bit on that. The Murillo shot was just entertaining. But, is to my point, I would say Morato is in our 10 best players. He's not ahead of Milenkovic and Murillo, obviously, but he is in our top 10. And so, should we have gone the 3-4-3 or from the top or tough to say.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of... You're going to love me asking you this question. What do you make to your favourite player in Ryan Yates? Because look, just thought Yates had a really poor game, and yeah. I can't really dress it up. I just thought he had a really poor one tonight.
I think he's now falling victim to having to play so many matches in a row. Yates is.
I was about to say that. Yeah,
he's an energy player. He's like, go out there and freaking put your boot through them and feel the physicality of them. And he just didn't have that tonight. There was a moment on the right hand side where he had the ball in an attacking position, and you just wish that was anyone other than him. He just didn't have if you're getting hooked at half time, that's not normally a good sign for anybody. It wasn't, he didn't cover himself in glory, but he'll dust himself off and go again. But he's just not, he's probably elevated himself. I've said this before. He's really good if you're in the bottom 5 of the Premier League. Now I think he's good if you're in the bottom 10 of the Premier League.
Do you think he often struggles, and I've maybe noticed this actually from afar, David, but do you think he struggles against almost the top 6? And obviously Forest have been in that top 6, but forget that, right? Do you think he struggles against the so-called top 6? And what I mean by that is he struggles simply against better players and better opposition. And that's what I've noticed so far this season, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the passing skill of Anderson or Ward-Prowse or Morgan, and so he gets shown up from that regard. And so also he's breaking down and charging down on tackling. The more skillful players are just better at dealing with being closed down the way that Ryan Yates closes them down, because they're just so outrageously more skillful. And so he doesn't have that same impact on the games that he could. Look, he's still the captain of the team, and we love having him in the squad, but I think if Danilo was available today, I think Danilo might have been a better choice. I don't think James Ward-Prowse is so out of form, but I don't think you can be sitting there jumping up and down saying James Ward-Prowse should have been in the team, except maybe the way to win was to get a foul on Alanga or Jota Silva or Yates and have Ward-Prowse bang one in from 20 yards out.
Just to pick up on that, and you mentioned Danilo, I was talking to a friend that stood by us tonight, and he actually said, you just wonder with Danilo and Sangare coming back that maybe if they were available for tonight, this is more aimed at Sangare than Danilo, you'd have maybe started him over Ryan Yates or Dominguez, maybe a bit more of a, I'm not saying that Dominguez and Yates aren't, but maybe more of a defensive midfielder. Is Sangare that, though? I don't know what your kind of take is on that.
He was purchased to be a defensive midfielder. He is a more of a physical specimen and imposing player, and when he gets it right. There was the match against Newcastle where he just which is a higher quality opposition. I think Sangare is more set up to perform for us in that space, and that's really what we need if you consider the £35 million player, Sangare, which makes him value-wise as strong as Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo, which means that he should be one of our top 3-4 guys, but he's not been that. And if we're to beat Manchester City, we need Sangare coming out and having the, boy, wasn't Sangare creative tonight. Boy, wasn't he. Yeah. Boy, didn't he make it difficult for De Bruyne. Boy, didn't he do this. Like, that's the outcome you're looking for. And we're a bit off that at the moment, but we're the 9th best team and we got beaten by the 2nd best team.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we summarise, Chris Wood's chance, David. Chris Wood's chance. I just watched it, and I know Gibbs White had a similar one. I just literally, I didn't. It was almost slow motion, but it was quite high up in the away end. I'm thinking, right, he's done really well, and that almost that leap of excitement, and he's there, and you'd bet. I'd put. I don't have one, but I would put my future mortgage on Chris Wood to score that chance, and I know maybe they just slightly put him off, but. He only just missed, but come on, you've got to bury that because it does change the whole game. And I am criticising Chris Wood here. A striker in form has to score that goal, and you're not going to be given those chances against Manchester City often. So when you get them, you've got to score it. And if he scores that, we might be sat here talking about a different scoreline.
It might be, it could be, but also the Chris Wood miss also just brought back a little of the worry of the emotional fragility that we know that Nottingham Forest have always been capable of. Is that they blew a chance against Manchester City and then City scored within 60 seconds or whatever it was. Yeah, that must have hurt being at the ground, Max. It's interesting.
Yeah, it did.
It was interesting that he chose the near post because he was so far out, and the City keeper is kind of down a little bit, like a dink over the top. Like he had so much of the goal. He was so far. It was such a gift too. But it wasn't as if we created that chance. We just got gifted that ball from, I think it was De Bruyne who just played it into the space. That's typically a Taiwo goal. They're the sort of goals that Taiwo likes to score, aren't they? Where he just hooning down. But we saw Chris Wood score from similar positions against Newcastle in the hat-trick game. So. Yeah, it just wasn't a night, Max.
Just one of those, and I still think if Morgan Gibbs-White could finish half the chances he got, I think he'd be playing for England full time. Honestly, I do. I think he's got to do better in that position. But look, we're talking about fine margins, as Mr. Warburton used to say.
He's out of form. Morgan Gibbs-White has been all season. We've gotten up to 3rd in the Premier League despite Morgan Gibbs-White not playing as well as we've seen. So he's got to find his way into it. Look, there's a lot of improvement in Nottingham Forest. Like, it's not like we turned up and played Man City and everyone played really well and we still got pumped. Like, we literally, one of the substitutes played well. There is plenty of improvement in this team. And like Man City, the next game can't come soon enough. I don't know if the team's staying over in Manchester or are they heading back to Nottingham?
They're not. No, I can tell you that they're not. No, they're going back. I think they stayed near the city centre. Actually, they know that. Not that I'm a stalker or anything. They're back. They go back to Nottingham
with his little signature book.
They go back, I think, to Nottingham either tonight. I think will go direct back tonight, and they travel back up Friday evening to stop over. the kind of the setup at the minute. I think Nuno quite likes hotels and giving team talks and things like that. So in hotels. So yeah, that's what Forest do. So it's to be honest, I think it's probably I know it's a bit of a tangent this, but I think it's probably the right decision to go. To stay in Manchester. Where would you train? There's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's 2 days. It's a bit of a longer period of time.
If you can organise it, it could be a good. Hey, well, it's like an away trip, an away tour, and we're going to these two places and having games and try and bring the squad together. Might be something you might do, but like you sleep better in your own bed.
You do, mate. You do, absolutely.
It's like who knew we would be talking about which bed you're sleeping in and that sort of stuff. But hey, look, I just to summarise my take, we've done brilliantly well so far. Remember we lost 6-0 to Man City. So, it could be. I can
remember that night.
It could be a hell of a lot worse.
Do you know, it really infuriated me that night because I got on the tram back to, because I didn't live in Manchester back then. My brother did. I was stopping at my brother's. I remember I got the tram back to where he lives, just outside of Manchester. And some City fans said, "Thanks for coming." And I was like, "Oh, thanks for coming." It was the most, yeah. And ever since that, I've wanted to beat them. And we only we've come close a little bit with Chris Wood getting that equaliser at the City ground under Cooper, but maybe one day. Right, let's wrap up quickly because, it's early for you, mate, but it's late for me. Let's talk about United on Saturday. Another Manchester clash. Not a big game because, again, maybe it's a bit of more of a free hit, but it's certainly more winnable than Manchester City. New manager, Ruben Amorim. Confidence high at United. Rashford on form. It's going to be difficult. It won't be easy, but I think the Forest players now probably think they've got something more to prove on Saturday. Would you agree?
I should be motivated. We'll have a fresh, non-played Callum Hudson-Odoi.
They'll have slept in their own bed.
He'll have slept in his own bed. We'll have Morgan Gibbs-White, who was only asked to play 55, 60 minutes. We're going to have a very energetic bunch of players wanting to get out there. We can probably bring in Nico Williams for one of the fullbacks if we want to do that. We'll have that's not only fresh players, but a stronger looking team. Nuno will have seen something. He'll have learnt from this one. He'll have learnt. And so one thing I like about Nuno is he's no fool, and he tends to work out a few tricks. So look, I'm more positive about Manchester United than Manchester City, but we're also getting Manchester United at a bad time.
Yeah, we are. I know.
Why couldn't they keep that other guy? What was it, Ten Hag? God,
yeah. I know, mate. I know. And here's me.
He's worthy of managing us 10 years ago, Ten Hag.
And here's me trying to be confident wearing my Forest shirt all week in Manchester, out and about.
Oh yeah, how's that going for you?
Yeah, not great, mate. Not great. Although it's nice to be back at. Well, it's 20 to 11 now, so by the time I finish this and go to bed, it'll be a decent time rather than the nice 2-hour trek back from the City ground.
Can I give a shout out to the guy at Brisbane Airport in Australia?
Of course you can.
Randomly wearing a Nottingham Forest jersey, getting a big "Come on, you Reds" from me, and him loving it, and his poor girlfriend just shaking her head, thinking, "You just made his day by talking "Come on, you Reds." And so she's like, "Oh." Anyway, shout out to you, Brisbane Forest fan. Forest all over the world, Max.
They are, mate. Honestly, Forest. I was in Boots the other day in Manchester. Funny enough, buying. I can't remember what I was buying, some shower gel or something, and I was buying it. I was at the till, and I kind of just looked, and this guy just went, "Oh, is it Max?" I was like, "Oh, yeah," and he was, "Oh, I'm a big Forest fan, and I'm just in the Manchester Christmas markets." And then he asked me about how we do tonight, and I stupidly went, "Well, you never know, we might win." And there we go, the optimism of youth.
I had no optimism on this match, and I think we'll put a better account of ourselves. It might be a classic 3-2 loss. Manchester United, we'll see how we go. But it's a great time to be a Forest fan.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as Stuart Atwell isn't reffing or on VAR, we should be fine. Is it Paul Tierney? I think it's Tierney on Saturday, so that'll be fun. It'll be Atwell soon.
Can't look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on. We'll be back. We'll get through this game. We'll get through Aston Villa, and then we get to play the weaker teams again. And then we'll be world beaters, and then we'll be talking about going to Europe again. It'll be fine in a couple of weeks' time, guys. Everything will be okay.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. You never know. We shall be back in the next couple of days, maybe for a more in-depth preview of Manchester United. Then we will be back Sunday for our main episode, reflecting on United. 2 games in Manchester in a quick space of time. Forest, as you said earlier, David, still 9th, still in that top 10 of the Premier League table. Many more games to come as well in the next few weeks, and we know what it's like. This Christmas period can make or break your season, so lots to talk about, and we'll do it all as always on Garibaldi Red. So give us a like, share and subscribe. Keep watching, keep subscribing. Safe journey to all the Forest fans on the way back. I know a few have been listening on their way home, so fingers crossed you get home safe. I don't wish that journey on my worst enemy. Have a good one, and we shall see you soon. From me and Aussie Dave, 9 o'clock in the morning compared to 20 to 11. Bye bye.
On you Reds.